energy, as well as the one copy of Dustoir in towards prizes. But then, on the other side of things, Maze has also prized his Ace Spec, the Sparkling Crystal.
That's not ideal, but here is the fist bump. We are off in the top 8 of the Frankfurt Regional Championship. I don't know what happened there, Joe, but I do know that Tord is going to be playing a Buddy Poffin to start off his turn. Give him a chance to look through his deck and try and find himself a couple of those basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less to go straight onto the bench.
So a couple of those key differences from the match we've just seen with Fabian Puyol. Yes, the Blaziken is out, the Dustoir package is in, far less of an attacking presence, much more about that Cursed Blast ability, where you're forcing your opponent to take those prize cards in order for you to place counters specifically on your opponent's Pokemon to cash in on that Phantom Dive as nicely as possible. Also, Fabian was playing the Shaman that was helping protect his Pokemon from bench damage, his non-Rulebox Pokemon at the very least, and that's something that was a great defense mechanism in his matchup and allowed Fabian to really neutralize the threat of Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX, something that Maze will certainly be looking to employ in this matchup. Nonetheless, Tord very happy with this opening of Dreepy and has that Buddy Poppin, so can begin getting additional Dreepy into play. As we know, one of the key strengths of Dragapult EX, although it's a stage 2 attacking threat, is actually that stage 1 Pokemon, the Dracloak, with the Recon Directive allowing us to see so many more cards throughout the game as we build up to our stage 2. It makes the deck flow ever so nicely.
It really does, and I'm having another look at the prizes as we go to May's turn. The one-off Pheasantipity is prized, and the one-off Pidgey, there's a 101 Pidgeot line, that is currently unavailable. So pretty rough prizes all around, frankly, but we're starting off with a Nestball rather than a Buddy Poffin, but we are going to be able to search out a basic Pokemon here, and we can see where we are. Of course, one of the reasons why we don't start with Buddy Poffin, it's not in the deck, Joe.
No, we're just sticking with the Nest Ball and Ultra Ball in this case because we could be so flexible via this ball search, especially with the Fan Rotom as one of the early game options here. It can fan call out multiple colorless Pokemon. That's going to be most likely Hoot in addition to Knocked Out for the future turn. And there's even a Ditto in the deck that can help things out. But Maze is really going to be taking things turn by turn, using his Knocked Out to dual seek his way through the game to try and sculpt these easy knockouts. He's going to look to use Crispin to accelerate to his Pokemon. He doesn't have access to that Sparkling Crystal, although it is usually a really helpful option. So perhaps looking more towards his Energy Switch combination with his Teal Mask Ogerpon could be his alternate route.
Absolutely, that's a way to get it on, and this is very much a box deck. There are so many different one-offs. One-offs of Latias, of Mew, of your Pidgeot, of your Pikachu, your Ditto, your Iron Bundle, your Blood Moon Ursaluna, Lily's Clefairy, Teal Mask Ogerpon. There are so many one-offs, actually 2 of the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, but this is a deck which can only be played by players who are real experts of the game. You need to know exactly what you want on any one turn. The one thing we do know is early doors you want your Hoot, because when you evolve into Knocked Out, assuming you have a terrestrial Pokemon on the field, you can search for any 2 trainer cards. Your attackers here are basically all basic. You don't actually need to get them turn 1, because you're not going to be attacking. What you really need is to get your Hoot down so that you can evolve them up into Knocked Owl, and of course, having a Fan Rotom searching out for 300 HP colorless Pokemon, absolutely going to help. And yeah, just for the record, Knocked Owl is 100 HP or lower colorless Pokemon.
Yep, and that's why this engine works so smoothly. Just one ball search card has allowed us to grab all of these hits, and straight away we have access to the Ditto, which could be transforming into a Tera Pokemon, although there is already the Pikachu EX in the hand, which could allow us to unlock Dual Seeker anyway next turn. So perhaps Maze will look towards a different EX here. Again, with that Sparkling Crystal, his plans already have to shift a little bit, as we see a Crispin straight away here. That could allow us to retreat the Hoot into a Ditto quite happily and stash energy for our hand as well. I feel like he has to go Teal Mask Ogerpon a little bit earlier than he usually would in this matchup, because he doesn't have access to that Ace Spec.
I agree, you need to get energy onto the field. Now, Ditto has to come into the active turn 1. Its ability only works on your first turn of the game, and it has to be active, but then you can basically swap it for any basic Pokemon in your deck. And how many times have we seen this? Early doors, the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. Either you can single energy sob for 20 and stop them retreating, or you can free energy, 100 damage, but maybe also do 120 to the bench against a deck with a lot of evolving Pokemon, and especially a deck that is generally not playing a bench barrier Shaman. It is going to be huge. And I know we did see Fabian's deck playing it, Tords does not.
And that means that Maze will be allowed to still attach for the turn here onto the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, still opening himself up for a Crispin on the next turn to unlock the Torrential Pump, even without the use of his Ace Spec. So really nice that he had one of his 4 copies of Crispin in this opening turn. He has to be pretty happy with himself. There is the fear, though, that with Tord playing 4 Rare Candy, that a Dragapult could be staring you down straight away, and the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon is far stronger at dealing with multiple lower hit point Pokemon. We know, sitting from here, that the Neo Up Energy is prized, so Tord can't unleash early Phantom Dives, but could still look towards getting some stage 2s online early.
Absolutely. Start protecting against the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, hitting the bench for 120. Always a fun thing to do. We start off with an Ultra Ball here for Tord, and he can go and get himself some of those evolution Pokemon. You can go Dracloak, which it does seem like we're going to. That gives you that Recon Directive, allowing you to get an extra card. You get to C2 and keep 1. You can, if you've got a Rare Candy, combine it with a Dragapult, get that going straight away. And either Jet Headbutt for 70, or even just leave it sitting there until it's ready to go next turn. Second Ultra Ball.
Looks like we're dumping the entire hand here. We'll go Dracloak into Dracloak, then we'll research and see a huge chunk of cards here. 7 from our supporter, then see 4 additional cards from multiple Recon Directive. It is, of course, a second Dracloak coming into the mix here. Tord still has to evolve up, get these Pokemon out of range of early torrential pumps.
No, absolutely. The problem is, if you evolve into a Dracloak on the bench, that's still 90 HP. That is still in range of the torrential pump. So if there's one Dracloak on the bench and say a Dreepy or a Dracloak in the active, that does open up the 2 prize KO. Although, It is really annoying that Sparkling Crystal is prized, because that would make it just A-spec energy, and you're off and rolling already. It is going to be, like you say, a Crispin will be needed in order to get that rolling next turn. But if you can get rid of 2 Pokemon and really hamper your opponent's setup, I do feel like it's probably worth it.
You also have to think that Maze simply hunting down energy is far stronger when there's no access to Neo up energy. So even if you're taking out 1 cloak, if it's the one that has the energy attachment, that's going to make life even more awkward for Tor to start unleashing these Phantom Dive. But let's see the 7 fresh cards from Professor's research here, because he still has plenty of actions ahead of him. If he can rare candy into a Dragapult in the active position, that could still be a great way to try and protect his energy and actually start initiating some pressure.
Absolutely. We are going to need an energy attachment. I see a couple of energy. I do not see a rare candy there, though, Joe. Nor do I see a Dragapult. Do you see a Duskull, though? That could help.
Yeah, and a Buddy Poff into boots. The final Dreepy is in those prize cards also, so we might just have to try and find our Budew here and protect ourselves a little bit with some item lock. Something that Dragapult is absolutely known to do. Try and build a board behind this little 30 hit point Pokemon.
Does seem to be what Tor's eyeing up here, is having a look at a Duskull and a Budew here. And that, of course, is going to give a bunch of options. Firstly, for slowing the game down, and secondly, those Dusknoir or Dusclops later on, being able to drop extra damage, giving up prizes, but making things like your own Ino stronger at the same time, and also maybe activating cards like Counter Catcher, which Tor is playing 3 copies of.
I think there's a reason why Tor is having an extra second look towards what is in those prizes, because they really are horrific.
Yeah.
The Neo Energy, the Dusknoir, even a 4th copy of Dreepy, when your opponent is very capable at taking out multiple of your evolution line in 1 attack, that's going to make life really awkward for you. Tor has a lot to navigate this turn. Even though he still has a huge number of draws, he can't actually access much else from the deck because he has some key cards prized.
Absolutely. Here comes the first Recon Directive, or at least it will when he gets his deck back. Mace is giving it a little bit of a shuffle as he is entitled, and then Tor cutting it as he is entitled. Here comes the first 2 cards. It is an Ino. Was that a Counter Catcher?
Was. Both pieces really crucial for him to mount a comeback. You have to assume Maze will be going ahead in prizes, knowing that Tor didn't hand disrupt a Noctowl that's sat in Maze's hand, so he's already anticipating to go down a few prize cards and is trying to rack up some counterplay.
Did keep an energy there off the second Recon Directive, put a boss back to the bottom. We see a second Duskull going down. Now, Tor knows at this point that Dusknoir is prized, so interesting to go for both of them, but I think it's one of those, yeah, but when I get it off the prizes, it's going to be amazing. Or even just Dusclops might be enough to take some key KOs. Here we go, and it is just a Dreepy using Petty Grudge for 10.
We couldn't retreat because of Soblock.
Oh, of course.
That's why we've had to Petty Grudge there. We would have loved to go into the Budew, but no dice. Tor was forced to put the attachment there. Either way, it was really under threat because Maze is almost always launching a torrential pump, so he was trying to get that little chip in with the 10 damage from Budew, now has to settle for Petty Grudge, but still gets the 10 damage that he was after.
And the 10 damage is crucial because now it's in range of a Phantom Dive, so it's very relevant damage. Oh, here comes a knockdown you said about.
Unsurprising that Maze immediately goes for this. It is the lifeblood of this engine. Jewel Seeker, as long as you have a Tera Pokemon in play, you're able to search your deck for any 2 trainer cards, and that's what's made this amalgamation of all sorts of different energy types, all sorts of different attackers, all come together because you can pick the ones you need in the right situation. We know that it's most likely a Crispin coming down this turn, unless he wants to start weaving in. Once again, that Teal Mask Ogerpon is his alternate line. When you prize that Sparkling Crystal, it's still one of the best ways for you to attack with the likes of Torrential Pump and still have more for the following turn, because there's no question that Maze is going to have a nice 2-prize knockout here, but it's also how you can make your board more robust against this hand disruption.
Absolutely. Well, we do see a Crispin and a Nest Ball being searched out here. So the Crispin, nice and easy, 2 energy, 1 gets attached, 1 goes to your hand, and then, of course, that could be your attachment for the turn. So that is going to allow you to get this Torrential Pump off nice and easily. Looks like we're eyeing up a... Yeah, it looks like it's going to be another Hoot off of the Nest Ball. Those Noctowl, they're just so good, such a good engine for getting all your trainer cards out. Ideally, you want as often as you can to just have one of them open, ready to evolve the following turn.
And crucially, the 80 hit point Hoot is even less vulnerable. It would force Curse Blast activity rather than something just like Horlucha. So that's the reason why we see a decent chunk of 80 hit point Hoot within the mix as well.
Absolutely. Here comes the energy. We've got everything we need for that Torrential Pump. You do have to shuffle the energy back in if you want to do the 120 hit to the bench. One of the reasons why Sparkling Crystal is so good here is because it's a tool card. It doesn't get shuffled back in. It's not actually an energy. It just reduces the amount of energy needed. All the moot point of it being stuck in the prizes. But the good news for Maze is it's probably about to come out the prizes.
Yeah, there's going to be, as long as he takes from the bottom, he's going to have some of the good news of receiving that A-Spec pretty swiftly, as well as another Crispin, so that's excellent. I think his final debate is whether or not he wants to give up on Pidgeot altogether. He's holding on to an Ultra Ball and a Rare Candy, as well as a Pikachu, which isn't really that helpful in the matchup either. I feel like you could end up using this Ultra Ball, but because we already have the Teal Mask Ogerpon in the hand, we can fill our board this way, knowing that there will still be a Tera in play, even if Tor somehow launches a nice Phantom Dive, knocking out your Wellspring. So Maze has once again built a really strong board, is very happy with the hand he's sat on because he's holding onto a Noctowl. That's pretty much all you ever need. And he's going to take the first 2 prize cards in this top 8 match.
And it is, of course, one of the Bench Cloak and the active Dreepy. They both get KO'd. And actually, if Maze does take the bottom 2 prizes, as most players do, that is going to be a Sparkling Crystal and Crispin, or as I like to call it, everything you need to do the same thing next turn.
You're going to have to keep an eye on those prize cards. But also there's more action going on out in the field. And Fabian is now 1 game ahead up against Dominic Fink, who's been the top seed for a decent number of rounds here with that with the Joltik toolbox. But the Blaziken doesn't have Grass weakness, so it's a much more difficult Pokemon to knock out for the Joltik players. So already the choice from Fabian to go Blaziken rather than Charizard as the partner for Dragapult, paying off in that top 8.
Absolutely. People are prepared to take down a Charizard. Very few people, I'm going to say almost nobody, maybe in fact nobody, came in here prepared to take down Blaziken. Now, speaking of taking down, it looks like we're going after this 80 HP Hoot. It was counter-captured into the active by Tord, and we do see a Luminous energy coming down onto that Dracloak. Remember, with no energy on the board and Neo up a prize, Tord is not getting a Phantom Dive off this turn, so it is going to be Hoot in the active, Ino coming down, and then probably ending on an Itchy Pollen, because Tord might be 2 prizes down, but right now there's not a good attack coming out of his board.
The only good news is that the bench is full, and Maze has that 2 retreat cost on this 80 hit point Hoot. which is a little bit more awkward to deal with. So if he can evolve up, Tord could reliably, with this itchy pollen, buy himself a little bit more time and really stunt the flow of Mace.
There's no air balloon or anything in Maze's list that could be used here to get out the active. You can play tools under item lock. They were split when Scarlet and Violet released. Tools are no longer a subset of items. They are their own type of card. They can be played, but not if you don't have them. Ultra Ball coming down from Tord here, and it looks like we're going to be eyeing up... Oh, another Dracloak.
Yeah, possibly Dracloak coming in. There's still the option for Dusclops as well. I feel like that's also a decent shout when you don't have any Dreepy right now.
Indeed. I mean, Pheasant Dipsy would be live at this point if you need to draw some extra cards.
I think that was thrown to the bottom from the Ino, so Tord's trying to make the most difficult prize map possible right now.
I see this. Very nice. It was the Dusclops, as suggested there. And then just a quick look through the deck to make sure exactly what's available and what isn't. Because, of course, with the prizes as they are, you kind of need to double-check a couple of things if you don't. And Maze, to be fair. They both had rubbish prizes.
Yeah, they have been awkward. The Turo scenario is one of Maze's prizes as well. And that would be a great way to use a Noctowl, then pick it up with the Turo. So then you can open up your board space to reuse your Jewel Seekers, either that turn or in future turns. As Tord is inevitably going to try to protect his Dragapult as best he can by evolving to stay out of range of a Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX. But there's item lock now. There's still a lot for Maze to contend with here. He's got a Grass Energy for a Teal Dance. No access to Noctowl just yet. Does have an Iono, though.
Draws a Fan Rotom off the Teal Dance. That's not going to help very much. After turn one, that is not a card you really want to be seeing. So, as soon
as you play this Ino as well, you know you're not launching an attack because you can't move this Hoot Hoot, and none of your Pokemon can launch an attack if you commit energy to your active, even after evolving up and going down to a single retreat cost. So Maze has to take his foot off the gas here. The Iono has worked from Tord. He's bought that little bit of wiggle room, thanks to this item lock from Budju. Otherwise, the Ultra Ball would be cascading us into Jewel Seekers and all sorts of nonsense.
We would be getting another torrential pump. It's not happening. And a super annoying Turo would be an option here, but the only Turo is in the prize card, so that's not going to be there, unfortunately. And without Air Balloon or Turo or anything else, it looks like, stop me if I missed something here, Joe, looks like Hoot Hoot is staying in the active for this turn.
That seems to be the case. There was the Area 0 Underdepths picked up, but no natural Latiasiacs. That would be the only other way that we can make that happen. We've basically just drawn into a ton of item cards. Maze has not sat on much, so has to pass things back over to Tord.
Oh, can't even hit for 20. He's only got one energy, or 30. He's only got one energy on.
No Pecs coming in. It's actually a tackle.
It's a tackle. Well, it was 20. It was 20.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, cannot be put asleep.
Don't even try.
Don't even try. It's not going to work. He is wide awake. He's excited. It's top 8.
Wouldn't you be?
I'm excited already, Joe. I'm excited.
Tord head in hands right now, thinking about this turn. He's already just happy to be in this spot. He's gained that tiny bit of wiggle room. He's got a second Dusclops in hand. Perhaps Tord is thinking that he could take out both of these Curse Blasters, leave himself with a board of Budju and Dragapult EX, and it becomes a really awkward Pokemon to knock out with Lily's Clefairy EX, because you're then forcing Maze to get a bunch of additional basic Pokemon, as well as a Crispin, to actually attack with a Lily's Clefairy. We saw that work out for Fabian in his game that we saw earlier in the Swiss rounds.
And we did see a failed KO against Kato in a round earlier today where it looked like a KO, but it was actually just a tiny bit short. Going for a low bench size can be crucial to save against a KO from your opponent's Lily's Clefairy. And
it's an easy way with Curse Blasting. You can take out multiple Hoot Hoot here with your Phantom Dive as well. So you can take out the only real engine pieces from Mace this turn. Even just using one Dusclops would keep you a lot safer. Maze only at 3 prize cards, and you could still take out both Hoot Hoot, and that's immediately being targeted by Tord.
Yeah.
Another prize card for Mace. Dragapult straight into the action.
This is exactly what we were looking for. Now, Dragapult can take out the active Hoot Hoot. It will KO the bench Hoot Hoot, and there will still be 4 other damage counters that could be thrown around here. And generally speaking, you're looking to bring everything into 60 or 200, because they're the 2 numbers you're hitting with your Phantom Dive.
Right.
So you want to try and get everything to either 200 or to 60.
There is the opportunity to countercatch here from Tord, but I feel like taking out both Hoot Hoot is still really valuable. So I think Tord is going to take things a little slower here. We'll put the requisite 2 onto Hoot Hoot, but enough on Fan Rotom to put it in range of a future Phantom Dive with the 4 damage counter placement. And
yeah,
that really will be the 6 there. And Mace, he's not in a great hand as Tord is able to pick up his Dusk Noir from the prizes, fortunately.
Oh, very nice. That's going to be a huge win, because this could take out, for instance, a Knockdown to take a nice prize there. And then also... Wait, Tord can win the game next turn.
Oh, yeah? That's Dragapult for you.
I was going to say, because Dusk Noir can take out Knockdown, and then Fan Rotom gets KO'd by the residual damage from Phantom Dive, and the Teal Mask, the Wellspring Mask gets KO'd by the regular damage, and that's it. That's 4 prizes. That's the game.
I'm sure most people at home will be looking at that Nest Ball for Mace and thinking, wow, flip the script. He can still work his way back into the game. But Mace's prize is Pheasant Dipsy EX. I don't think he can draw any cards this turn. There's not enough. There's no Grass Energy to draw with Teal Dance. We don't naturally have the Crispin in hand to just weave in the Clefairy, which would be vital. I think Maze is just stuck.
And Tord's got game in hand. All Tord needs is Countercatcher and Dust Noir. He has both those cards in hand. We know this for a fact. So either some kind of hand disruption or...
Can we reduce the hand size enough to draw anything with Mew EX here? That's the last chance saloon. We can play the Area 0 Underdepths. We can play the Hoot Hoot. We can attach an energy, commit the energy switch as well. We'd have to do all that just to draw from Mew EX. I mean, essentially... Oh, Iron Bundle, that's interesting. Perhaps a Sob play is also the other line Maze can take to try and buy himself a turn now.
I mean, it worked first turn. Sob worked beautifully first turn, so why not go Sobbing again? Bit of a Sob story, but when it works, why not?
This is a really cute play from Maze. I was thinking panic draws with Mew. Iron Bundle with Sob could be the better option. Tord perhaps not wanting to call the bluff and bring up his Dusclops, which he could take out of play with his own ability. Might be forced into the Budju.
Might be, and then you can't retreat because of Sob, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of cards in Tord's deck that really excel in getting around, not being able to retreat. He's got plenty of ways to retreat with stuff like Latias, but that is going to be helpful if you can retreat. Tord
having a think. Thinking what situation forces Maze to not Nest Ball Fez is the first question. then what situation is he looking up against? Does he call the bluff here and go for the Dusclops? Yes, he's doing it.
I think you have to. Because I'm just looking at Tor's deck list. I don't see a way to get Badoo out the active. So I think you have to just hope Maze can't take advantage of this. Because next turn, you just evolve into Dust while counter catch and win the game.
Yeah.
So I like that rather than letting my opponent trap me in the active and just hoping I just win a couple turns later. I do like this as a play. It does look like we are going to get a sob going on here. But even, oh no, we're not, because Maze knows the sob is going to do much good. And here's going to be the game. It's it's actually all Lucha and counter catcher. Either way, that is a game for Tord. He takes game one on the back foot for a lot of the game. But oh wait, this is exactly what Dragapult does.
This is Dragapult all over. Fantastic scenes from Tord. So many times throughout the weekend we've seen it's only taken 2 Phantom Dives to win a game with the help of these Curse Blast Pokemon. Well identified from Tord to take the time to build up towards this one Dragapult. Here was the panic play that really bought him the turn required. Let's bring up the 2 retreat cost Hoot Toot, build the 1 Dragapult EX, try and protect it for this one turn. If I can hold out with an Ino, Maze with only 4 cards plus the top deck to try and move this Pokemon. And when you don't naturally find the Noctowl, it opens up this.
And unfortunately, that gave Tord, unfortunately for Maze, that gave Tord exactly the amount of time he needed. And here we see just a bunch of damage being put down. But one of the things that was crucial here, taking out both those Hoot Toots, taking Noctowl out of the equation for the entire remainder of the game. And then when we saw Dusclops go up here, Tord went, well, you know what? I've actually got a way to take as many prizes as I need next turn. So let's just go on to game 2.
Really interesting scenes there. Both players having to adapt so much based on their prize cards. It made it a really chaotic game, to be honest with you. Both players navigating those openings really beautifully. And to be fair, we could be praising Maze right now. If that Iono to 4 was slightly different, I think he easily could have carved his way through quite a weak setup from Tord. No Dragapult to recon directive. Yep. He had to naturally have the combination in his hand.
Absolutely. Both players played very well, and both players can rightly look at that game and be like, I was not well served by my prizes. You know, Maze is sitting there going, well, if I'd have had my Sparkling Crystal, it would have been so much easier turn 1. If I'd have had my Pheasant Dipsy, I could have drawn more cards at the end there. If I'd have had my Pidgey early doors, maybe I could have gotten my Pidgeot in play, and then the end of the game goes differently because I've got everything I need. And all of these are ifs, buts, and maybes, and it's kind of irrelevant.
I also like that Tord revealed the Holucha and the counter catcher and not the prize card that he took, which was the Dustoir, for his way to win the game, saying that I had the plan all along. I didn't even need the help of those prize cards to help me out.
Always nice when you do get to see that. Well, here we go then. We're going to be going into game 2 here. Top 8 of the Frankfurt Regional Championships. Tord is up 1-0 against Maze. Both of these players have come second at the World Championships. Both are very well known around Europe and the world for being top-level Pokemon TCG competitors. Let's see what the prizes look like.
And Maze...
Better.
Yeah, better for Tord, certainly. All cards that he plays multiple copies of, which is already a relief. Possibly not the Fire Energy, but hey-ho. Yeah, just 1 copy of the Fire, but that's livable. Oh no, the Lily's Clefairy EX in the prize cards for Maze this time around.
That's bad.
And a Psychic Energy. Let's see how many he plays of that. That's often a one of... No, there's 2 in the list. So if we can take early knockouts with Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX, we will access this card. But otherwise, Maze is once again on the back foot based on those 6 prize cards.
And the only rare candy, that is not ideal. Well, we are going here. Maze gets a Metal Energy onto that Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, and that's the entire turn. Passes over to Tord. I've got an energy on Wellspring Mask. Let's worry about it next turn.
And also going on in the top 8 right now, we have the same matchup that you're seeing ahead of you. Kato is playing the Dragapult archetype up against Alexandra, and Kato is 1 game ahead in that top 8 match. So far, both the Dragapults are game up against these Tera box players.
So we could potentially be seeing 3 Dragapult in the top 4 here, and 1 Gardevoir.
Oh, no. Not again.
It does seem like I'm not just talking about today, I'm talking about all season. Everything's coming up, Gardy. Well, we've got an Ultra Ball here for Tord, and he's lining up immediately that Badoo, because, well, that's what you Badoo when you're playing this Dragapult deck. Let's slow the game down, and then find time to build up my stage 2s, get my energy on the board.
And that's especially so the case when your opponent doesn't get the early Fan Rotom. This is a really awkward start for Maze. Going first, you still have a huge number of full search outs to get that Fan Rotom. That sets you up really nicely with Noctowl throughout the remainder of the game. So if Tord now can unleash this Budju, he's not only trying to protect his board as well as possible, but also he's really reducing Maze's outs to get into those Noctowl throughout the entirety of this game.
And it's really worth reminding ourselves that Fan Rotom does not work after your first turn. Ditto does not work after your first turn. Both of those options are now gone. They're like Squawkabilly in that they can only be used on your very first turn of the game, whether you went first or second. So Maze there, it's not just a slow start, but he's now got 3 really nice cards in his deck he cannot use anymore, which is a real downside, especially because it's Fan Rotom that pretty much guarantees your first 1 or 2 Noctowl are going to work.
I think Tord does have a couple additional basic Pokemon, at least another Dreepy here.
There we go.
So isn't in fear of a Torrential Pump for game. And Maze actually is holding on to Crispin, so even without, there's the 10 damage launch from the Budju. Maze does have a means of taking 2 prize cards, even without any Noctowl here.
Does he have Ace Spec? He's got his Ace Spec in that, and he's got a Boss's Orders. So rather than just using Crispin, what we could do here is get Sparkling Crystal, Boss's Orders on the Dreepy, and then you take out both the Dreepy, and Tord is left with just a Badoo in play. Phenomenal play here by Maze, going, why would I KO a Badoo and 1 Dreepy when I can get rid of both your Dreepy immediately? Bad turn 1 from Maze. For turn 2, it's looking like it's turning around.
Those are the 2 cards you'd find from a Jewel Seeker.
Oh, yeah.
So just having them naturally, absolutely exceptional, and not something Tord perhaps expected. There is the early Torrential Pump, and even better news for Maze, he's about to be plucking his Lily's Clefairy EX from these prize cards.
And if he has got Crispin in hand, you said he did, I believe you, Joe. You can Crispin next turn and do that again.
Yeah, and I think he wants to. I'll be honest, I think he wants to. Tord is left with, what is that, Dracloak and a Pheasant Dipity EX? He's on the back foot, make no mistake.
This game 2 could be a very quick game 2 at this stage. After that turn 1, I was not feeling good about Maze's chances. I'm feeling a lot better now. Lily's Clefairy did come out the prizes. That is going to be crucial for when Tord gets those Dragapult rolling in the late game.
Well, Flip the Script does give Tord a chance here. We have an INO for a fresh hand, a bunch of fairly useless Pokemon. So let's see a fresh 6 throw Maze down to just 4 cards. And now there's even less chance that there'll be a Crispin next turn. Yeah. He still needs to work on recovering some Dreepy here. Of course, when you are a Dusknoir build, you go fairly heavy on the Night Stretcher, but typically you would see 4 copies within a Dusknoir build. In this case, Tord is only playing 2 copies of Night Stretcher for Pokemon Recovery because he's had to shoehorn in those rare candy.
I'm looking at Maze's hand. I don't like Maze's hand. We've got Knockdown that you can't play, Professor Tera that you really shouldn't play. We've got, I think, a Super Rod, which isn't helping you very much, and then a Fan Rotom, which does nothing for you because it's not turn 1. There is nothing remotely useful in Maze's hand right now.
Iono does it again. Here we are. Tord right now with only 1 Dreepy. Let's have double Duskull. I believe there's still 1 more Dreepy within the deck somewhere, if we can grant access to that card.
There should be.
Could already be in the hand.
Yeah, we've seen 2 KO'd, but there's none in the prizes, so 2 are available.
And let's face it, he's going to need a couple Phantom Dives if he's going to get through this game, so we do need to start working on that second copy. He must still be fearful of a Crispin just coming out and taking out another basic here on the bench.
Especially in a build that doesn't play more than 2 of the Night Stretcher. That could be absolutely crushing to Tord's chances of moving on here. But make no mistake about it, Maze went from, oh, that was a terrible turn, to, oh, that was an amazing turn. He might be right back to, oh, that's a terrible turn. Right now, his hand is looking incredibly bad. Here we see the Itchy Pollen, so he's blocked from item cards as well. What's the top deck?
Crispin's the top deck.
He top decks a Crispin, and that is going to allow the double KO here. Now, this
Maze is just showing how unlikely that was with how many were shuffled to the bottom as well. He's having fun.
My word, that is so unlikely, but it works. And this means that we are going to be able to get a torrential pump here. That is going to allow a double KO on both the Badoo and the Dreepy with the energy on, one would imagine. Yep. We're not going to get gusting as well. Let's calm down on that. But this is still going to be a phenomenal first couple of turns from Maze. Really coming back from that bad turn 1. Still a really bad board setup. Really bad. But right now, it doesn't really matter.
I think you can't overthink this. You have to just take Energy Dreepy here. Yeah, it is going to be removed from play. Maze going down to just 2 prize cards remaining, but has basically no board to speak of right now. He's exerting a huge amount of pressure, but as long as Tord has access to an Iono, he could still find himself falling way behind here. Tord's hand right now is Rare Candy Professor's Research.
He's got an Iono.
There's an Iono
in his hand. He does have one right there.
Wow. Oh, and we have an update in our other top 8 match as well, Ross.
Well, I've heard we've got a match result. So Dominic Fink and Fabio Peugeot here, they are actually 1 game apiece with that Joltik box against Blaziken Dragapult. So that's something we are keeping an eye on. The rest of these top 8, that one could still go either way. So here we go then. Maze does take 2 prizes with that Torrential Pump, hoping to get something going at some point here other than just Torrential Pump, but has clearly bought himself some time. And remember, Lily's Clefairy just gets a 1-hit KO on Dragapult. So now, if Maze at any point goes Lily's Clefairy Crispin, boom, that's a game.
Well, we do need a few bench Pokemon to help us get there as well, but I know where your head's at. It is one of the easiest knockouts that we normally see here. Because Tord is clutching onto Rare Candy, he's thinking, can I have my cake and eat it too? Can I Rare Candy into a Dragapult before using my Iono here? Or will I have higher odds? As here we go, we're going to see the 3 cards first. We do see the Hilda. That wouldn't be hand disrupting, but it would grant us Neo Upper Energy in addition to our Dragapult EX. We can Phantom Dive, knock out the active, and leave Maze with a board of only Pheasantipity. I believe do we have Countercatcher Horlucha here as well? If we have that combination...
We've got Horlucha.
We do have Countercatcher Horlucha. We can also take out the Pheasantipity EX this turn, remove the Draw Engine, and leave Maze with only this Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX.
Which would have a fair bit of damage on it at that point as well. Here comes the Hilda, so we're not going Iono here. We have already gone after Maze's hand a little bit, so why bother too much here? Here's the Neo Upper and the Dragapult. Of course, with the Rare Candy, he's got Rare Candy in hand, right?
Yep.
So the Rare Candy in hand, that means we're going to be able to get the Dragapult Phantom Diving this turn. And you need to get the sequencing right. I believe Tord's going to be okay with this. You can play the Horlucha, put 1 damage counter on the Pheasantipity. That's it. That's all it does. It's kind of like Crobat G all over again. But then you can bring it into the active with Countercatcher, KO it, drop 6 damage on the bench Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. But crucially at that point, it means Maze is not drawing an extra 3 cards from Flip the Script. There's the Candy, there's the Dragapult, there's the Neo Upper. Are we going to see it? Or are we just going to KO the attacking threat here?
Both good choices, honestly, because also Horlucha's vital at taking out Hoo-Hoo. Don't forget that 70 hit points on that Hoo-Hoo is a critical number. So perhaps you're thinking that if you just leave the Pheasantipity to draw 3 cards, it's quite scary, don't get me wrong, but what combination actually beats you here? Blood Moon's not online because you have so many prizes still to take as Tord. It's really difficult to gust it as well as create a ton of attachments to deal with the bench Pheasantipity, let alone the active. And if you might be holding this Horlucha for a future turn. It's a really close call here.
You're still taking 2 prizes. If you do, you're still getting rid of an attacking threat. Maybe you're worried about Maze potentially being able to use another Torrential Pump of a Crispin and then making sure Dusknoir's not an option for the rest of the game, or even leaving as an easy 1 prize KO for later in the game. Right now, we have had the decision. It is Wellspring Mask Ogerpon getting KO'd. 6 damage on the Pheasantipity. Right up till now, it's been fine, but now, Maze, I'm afraid you do need to build a board, or Tord is going to be going to the top 4 of the Frankfurt Regional Championships.
3 big cards from the Flip the Script then. I believe I saw Ultra Ball in there.
Knocked out.
There's also Blood Moon Ursaluna, which isn't live just yet, but if you're going to leave the Pheasantipity EX in the active position, that could be putting a pin on Tord, almost saying that the Blood Moon Ursaluna could come in with boss's orders and take out the Pheasantipity EX for the final 2 prize cards. This board state, it's a bizarre board in that Maze has nothing going on, and yet it's really complex. Because there's also the option to use Professor Tera's Scenario, the only supporter in Maze's hand right now, to pick up this Pheasantipity EX. You could go into a single prize Pokemon.
I play basic first.
You could possibly even... Can we get the Pidgey into the active and use Call for Family here? Perhaps that's the best route with Tura's Scenario. That would be a way to get multiple Hoo-Hoo into play here.
It would.
It would also put your 60 hit point Pokemon in the active position. I think Call for Family is a great choice.
I don't disagree with you, Joe. That seems like a nice little plan. Right now, we've got an Ultra Ball coming down from Maze here. He's picked one card to discard. He will need to grab... No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. Here comes the Ultra Ball. And here's going to give a little insight into his thinking here. What does he want? Oh, nobody knows.
I think even just discarding the knocked out opens up lines for him on future turns, thanks to Night Stretcher. So I think he wanted that knocked out in the discard pile. But keeping the Fan Rotom around, again, it might come into the thinking of Lily's Clefairy EX. He needs to have a critical mass of basic Pokemon to bench, to have a huge number of those bench Pokemon in one turn. I feel like Call for Family has to be a great route here. I'm trying to think through the lines.
I like
so dangerous with Curse Blast still open. That's the thing you have to think. If you put the 60 hit point Pidgey down, you could lose to Counter Catcher, Candy, Dusknoir, and a Hawlucha. You would lose to that combination of cards if you put any Pokemon with 60 hit points or less into play.
Yep. Well, here comes an 80 HP Hoot Hoot. That is one which is a lot. It can be KO, but it's going to take a lot more effort to do so, and probably doesn't quite represent game on board right now.
Yeah, this is certainly a safer option for Mace. That 80 hit points actually being really important right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a tech card that you see sometimes in Raging Bolt, but very frequently in the Terrestrial box because you play 4 Hoot Hoot.
Yeah, you really need to. I mean, 70 HP, it's a Hawlucha plus residual damage from Phantom Dive. That's a KO. That is a terrifying situation. It's why the Dragapult always play one Hawlucha, so they can take out 70 HP Pokemon so easily. So it's too much of a risk. When you can play the 80, you need to try and do so. The 2 retreat cost is annoying, but the extra 10 HP makes a gigantic difference.
I think Maze really is just eyeing up, is it worth sacking the Fan Rotom? I think that's going to be the play Maze goes for here. Simply send that into the active position, re-benching the Pheasantipity EX, perhaps. It would, again, be punished by Counter Catcher Hawlucha, which we know Tor is holding on to, I believe.
He hasn't played Hawlucha yet.
Yeah, he really debated that last turn. That was one of the crucial decisions from Tor to hold on to Counter Catcher plus Hawlucha. And after the flip the script, it's looking like an amazing choice.
So we do see the Professor Tera scenario. Pheasantipity goes back into the hand. If you keep it in hand, and Ino's going to put it to the bottom of the deck and leave it unavailable for next turn, there's a very strong argument to replay it. Here comes the replaying of Pheasantipity. You could... Oh, here's an energy onto Pheasantipity as well.
My goodness, Tor is going to be licking his lips with the situation, to be honest with you, Ross, because he held Ino, Counter Catcher, Hawlucha, and he's watching his opponent build up a Pheasantipity EX to try and play around exactly not that combination of cards.
The only saving grace is that 80 HP Hoot Hoot will be still on the board at the end of this turn because the Hawlucha plus Phantom Dive will not quite be enough. And unfortunately, you cannot hit both the Fan Rotom and the Pheasantipity like you would ideally want to. But you can leave the Hoot Hoot and eventual Knockdown in a very precarious position.
Yeah, we can Curse Blast the Hoot Hoot off the board as well, don't forget.
That'll be an option.
So you could be Ionoing Maze down to one card, removing Hoot Hoot and the Pheasantipity EX. You'd be leaving a Fan Rotom in play, which with a Stadium card and an energy and a boss's orders could still defeat the one Duskull that would be in play. You'd have to evolve the other Duskull into Dusclops to make that play the safest possible. But I think Tor's still in a great position here.
Oh, I agree, and I love the idea that if you do that, you still have to protect against Fan Rotom, because it is a legitimate game-winning opportunity.
The Ultra Ball. Discarding Buddy Buddy Poffin and Dracloak. I feel like you have to go Dusclops here.
Oh, 100%.
Unless there's Red Candy in hand. Oh, it's going to be the Latias EX as one of the choices. I'm not sure what else in terms of ball search we have access to here.
But what does Latias really allow you to do? It allows you to retreat things, but you don't need to retreat right now.
Basically just means that you're not going to be slowed down at any point, although with Corner in the deck, that's not actually the case.
No.
So, Tord, again, head in hands. This is a real thinker, folks. He's already made some really tough calls in this game number 2 to put himself in this position. I feel like he's just working himself as close to victory as possible.
No, I agree. Getting that Latias down, just protecting against potential future plays, assuming there isn't something like a Sob which would stop retreating or things of that nature. But right now, that's going to give opportunity to at least retreat those basic Pokemon if need be. Now, we do see the Hawlucha hitting the board, 10 damage onto each of those bench Pokemon. No decision to be made there. Now we see the Counter Catcher on the Pheasantipity with 200 HP remaining. Now we see the evolution into Dusclops. Now, this is what Tor's thinking. Can I afford to do it? It will mean free prizes and leaving my opponent with a Fan Rotom, but it could mean my opponent wins the game with an Energy Stadium boss's orders on the following turn. Fan Rotom KOing Duskull. That is the decision here. But he's already picked up Dusclops, so it does feel like he's kind of got to do this.
He's so committed to this line. I think it is generally very, very safe, especially because you're taking Flip the Script off the... Wow! Actually going for the Fan Rotom here for 5. He's going to keep the Hoot Hoot as the Pokemon forced into the active position with a 2 retreat cost. Toward even trying to play around the opportunity for a Fan Rotom attack here.
I agree entirely. Like, it's such an awkward situation because the chance of Maze actually having a combo for Fan Rotom is very low, but it's not 0. So you leave the Hoot Hoot, it gives an opportunity for a Knockdown. Well, what 2 cards can he really get which would give him a higher chance of losing?
It has to be Knockdown plus Tera Pokemon to even use this Knockdown. Nestball could access Mew EX. And I think it could be a big restart here.
Going to have to be, because the only other card in hand is a Hoot Hoot. Tord has taken 3 prizes. We are down to 1 prize each remaining. Tord is not going to struggle to take that last prize next turn. So Maze has got to get something rolling this turn. Essentially, we are going to Mew restart for 3 cards. And that is about all we've got right now, Joe.
We certainly need to find more ball search. We need a Tera Pokemon if we're going to use Dual Seeker. I feel like Dual Seeker is really important, but let's not forget that Blood Moon Ursaluna doesn't need any energy to attack at this point. So if you can find a Noctowl, you can attach to the active Pokemon to retreat it. So if we can find a Dual Seeker, we should be able to find a Blood Moon Ursaluna boss's orders combination to win the game here.
That's what we're looking for then. We need Noctowl on the board. That needs a Tera Pokemon and, you know, the Noctowl.
Yep.
So we're shuffling up.
And energy, really. We need exact cards here.
Oh, the odds are low, but, you know, we've seen low odd plays already, even this weekend paying off. 3 cards off a restart. 0 card hand. This is why Mew is so good. You get to draw 3 cards. and hopefully they are going to be what we need.
Let's see it, Mace. 3 big cards from restart. We're doing it on the top. Tera Pokémon.
Fan Rotom, it's not it, and there's the fist bump. Tord is going to take this 2-0 and go on to the top 4 of the Frankfurt Regional Championships.
We have just seen an absolute treat. Both players relieved, to be honest, just puffing out the air in all their lungs, because what a bizarre set we've just had to see there, folks. The prize cards in that game number 1 were so gross for both players that they had to make really strange decisions. Tord having his panic play with Budju in the mid-game after Maze flying out the gates with that Wellspring Mask Ogerpon with back-to-back Crispins on turn 1 and 2. And then once again, Tord in this spot where he really just had to hope for a turn. But then as soon as Phantom Dive came online, thanks to these Curse Blast abilities, we're able to pick apart those Hoot-Hoots and really put himself in a spot with Iono that Maze couldn't really create a comeback play.
Unfortunately not, and that is how game 1 ended up finishing, with this really big KO here, where we put the Dusclops into the active, we waited, and then we went Dusknoir. Well, we could have gone Dusknoir, we actually went Countercatcher with your Lucha. Now into game 2, and Maze had very little ball, but it didn't matter. Wow. He had the perfect cards on turn 2. It's ridiculous. Boss's orders to KO both the Dreepy. You're right, Joe. Ridiculous is the best way to put it.
And then top deck to Crispin to do it again afterwards.
Top deck to Crispin to do it again on turn 2 to take out another couple, and seeing the reactions from the players here. Wonderful. So here we're going to see the Crispin had just been top decked, and here it comes down again. And
they're both good sports. I mean, you just have to laugh at it sometimes. This is the beauty of Pokemon. But this was the crucial turn from Tord, opting to allow Flip the Script in play so he could hold on to Counter Catch or Lucha. And then after Maze made a nice Turo decision, tried to give himself a second use of Flip the Script, Tord was holding the right combination to take out the Pheasantipity and actually kept Hoot-Hoot available, which I don't think many players make that line. But eventually tries to put damage on the Fan Rotom, forcing the 2 retreat cost Hoot-Hoot into the active position so that he could play around a Fan Rotom Boss's Orders play.
It was low odds. Both the plays of Maze were low odds. They didn't work, and that was the fist bump that ended out